In order to explain the principles with which we are concerned in this story, let's assume that we can stop the action within the atom.
The year 1903, a Serbian fellow named Dracula Vespa or something is up to some shady business, performing his sinister immigrant experiments which deign to harness the elements in sheer defiance of our Christian God. Serves him right when red-blooded Americans start dropping dead all around him. Maybe it's that pretty assistant of his. Unmarried at 24, what's this world coming to? The mad foreign scientist claims to have nothing to do with all the carnage, but that doesn't stop our heroes from springing into action. And by our heroes, I mean these folks, and by springing into action, I mean waving signs about and complaining. That'll show Professor Sciencinski Ungamanga. His nefarious scheme to electrify the air might sound like a fun time, but it threatens the purity of every woman and the virility of every man. And even if it didn't, which it absolutely does, what's wrong with good old-fashioned direct current? Who needs alternating current anyway? Why, it's wishy-washy, weak, indecisive, need I say feminine, but also extremely powerful, dangerous, and out to personally kill you. Don't think too hard about it, just look at poor old Topsy, cruelly and inhumanely executed with alternating current by none other than Mr. Edison himself in order to show you how cruel and inhumane those alternating current people truly are. I mean, dear sweet McKinley's ghost, just look at these sparky things.
Sparky things? Not in my kitchen, Mr. Tesla.
That's why you need direct current. It's safe, it's patriotic, and it doesn't kill elephant. What's that? It wasn't used to kill this particular elephant. I'm Thomas Edison, and I approve this message.
Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror was... it was fun.
He's only Nikola Tesla. Total genius.
It was just fun. It was fun and wacky, and I loved it, and good God, I'm honestly surprised it's taken them this long to get to Tesla. The dude had kind of a renaissance a few years back during that brief window of time when geeks were cool before they got toxic again. So honestly, it's surprising the story didn't happen during, roughly the late Matt Smith era. But here we are, 1903, Niagara Falls.
Niagara Falls!
For a story of rivalry, revenge, and giant scorpion people. And at the core of this whole thing is a sense that they really did their research here about Tesla and Edison, and they got a lot of the details absolutely right, except this one. If you were standing in New York City, you couldn't actually see a tower in that part of Long Island because it's a really big harbor, you guys. Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison are, of course, two actual historical figures who join the long list of actual historical figures who we've already met. Just 4 episodes into Series 12, and we've already met up with quite a few. Ada Lovelace, Noor Khan, and the love child of Was-At Kangaroo and Lookout Bear from Zoobilee Zoo. A reference that will no doubt be lost on my British viewers, but to be fair, your Mr. Blobby references are entirely lost on me, apart from the fact that wow, y'all did a lot of club drugs in the 90s, didn't ya? The celebrity historical format usually has a famous person from the history books facing off against some thematically appropriate monster, probably best exemplified in Vincent and the Doctor, where Vincent van Gogh is haunted by a giant invisible monster / metaphor for mental illness. Rosa Parks didn't have a monster to face because she's already fighting systemic racism, and what would you even do with Rosa Parks' monster? Is the Earth invaded by evil carnivorous buses? Do the Cybermen invent a thing that prevents people from sitting down? Does an evil space racist from the future travel back in time to 1955 and try to change history this is Time Cop or so? Wait, no, they actually did that. So, it stands to reason that Mr. Tesla would face off against monsters that want to steal your ideas and exploit your labor. Because, well, that's kind of what Tesla's mostly known for. Yeah, the man invented the 20th and 21st centuries, but mostly he's known that the guy who had awesome sauce ideas that other people stole, particularly Thomas Edison, which honestly makes his inclusion here a little bit odd, especially since he basically winds up working with the Doctor and Tesla to fight the bad scorpion lady from space and her cavalier attitude to copyright.
Half of your inventions were thrown out by other people. Anyone can have ideas. I make them happen.
It would have been dramatically satisfying and yet utterly historically inaccurate for him to have had a oh, it me moment when facing the not Arachnos, so the jury's still out as to whether or not the episode would have been stronger without him, but the actor who plays him does a really good job.
I may keep an eye on my rivals, but I do not steal.
I like that there's a character who's occupying a sort of moral gray area here. Yeah, Edison's a businessman and a slimy one at that, but he actually does care about the people who work for him, and the reason he was able to give the world the light bulb, the phonograph, the movie camera, etc. is because his greedy, ruthless, hyper-capitalist nature also meant that he understood how dreams could only change the world when they're, tangible. Except, the whole thing where Tesla solved Edison's problem and showed up for his $50,000 and got screwed out of it.
Man just didn't understand the American sense of humor.
Yeah, that's still a real thing that happened. Who needs a shower? Maybe, if I had one complaint about this episode, apart from the tower in New York and whatever, maybe it's that Tesla's way too well adjusted in this episode, and it would have been way more interesting if he was like a little bit more eccentric. Like, people were kind of afraid of him because, like, boo, alternating current is scary, but also people were kind of afraid of him because he'd randomly go into trances in the middle of parties and wasn't great at explaining himself and spent a lot of time with his pigeons. Like, a lot of time with his pigeons. The death ray, by the way, was real, but it was bigger. Like, it was actually about the size of the thingy he's building out on Long Island, and you still couldn't see it from New York City. But even if he couldn't personally get people from point A to point Z, he saw the path before anyone else and drew up the map that others could follow, at least up to point L or something. And yes, sometimes point M was Mars, but point N was Niagara Falls.
Niagara Falls!
And that's where our story begins.
The year 1903.
What's inside mine was ahead of its own time. You did not steal from me, you stole me from mankind.
Dalek is the Serbo-Croat word for far and distant thing, which means that, yes, folks, Nikola Tesla would have known about Daleks.
And speaking of Serbians, here's Serbian George Clooney playing Nikola Tesla. He's charming and wonderfully optimistic and open, probably more than Tesla actually was. But this performance is lovely and likable, and like a bottle of Fizz-Aid in a vest he is. Tesla's kind of actually perfect for this particular doctor too, who since her first episode has occasionally had that kind of cosmic tinkerer thing going on. You know how she made her Sonic out of spoons, and she looks cool in goggles. Honestly, this is a doctor who should be spending more time on Zeppelins, tightening brass gears, wearing a top hat, and drinking tea with automatons. You know what I'm saying? I think that madcap steampunk life would make her very happy. So of course I ship the hell out of this. I'm sorry. No, Tesla is to 13 what Madame de Pompadour was to 10, and it's awesome. And yes, Tesla was celibate his whole life, supposedly, but Elizabeth was the Virgin Queen, and you see where I'm going with this. Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror is really, really good. And what I really appreciate is how well the stuff clicks together. Like, this part of the plot parallels that part of this connects to that. The whole thing, everything sets something up, which is, it's basic TV 101 stuff, but it's something Doctor Who kind of has a problem with sometimes, you know what I mean? There's nothing worth complaining about here, really. I don't know what to do with myself, honestly, but I did get to geek out about Tesla for like 10 minutes, so that's cool. So I'm going to open this up to the comments section. If Van Gogh fought a depression beast, and Shakespeare fought witches with words, and Tesla fought, spidery patent trolls, what other fun combinations of historical figures and thematically appropriate monsters can you come up with? Next week, Jadoon! And you won't believe what happens next.